2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, okay,
Hello.
Here we go.
Mine is now working too. Let's
we're
go. Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. Firstly, big shout out. Yeah, we love you. Thanks for chilling in the lounge room stage. So yeah, we're here at Beyond the Valley on the land of the Wadawurrung and Eastern Maar people of the Kulin Nation. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of these lands where we're currently gathered, and we pay our respect to elders past and present. Sovereignty was never ceded. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'm here with a producer and DJ at the forefront of UK influenced club sounds in Australia, having rocked clubs and festivals around Australia and taken his craft over to the EU. He is the label head of In The House Records, and his sound is sick, suave, bumpy, and maintains that proper old school sound. I'm here live and direct at BTV with the one and only Osmosis Jones.
Yes. Thanks, guys, for coming down. Appreciate it.
It's good to sit here with you, man, because, yeah, you've been to Beyond the Valley twice. Your first time was way back when?
10 years ago to the day. So the first ever Beyond the Valley I went to was 2015. So I'm really showing my Unk status right now.
So, like, walking into BTV, I mean, well, driving, you got to drive because it's so big, but what's the difference? Like, what are you seeing in terms of the way that it's laid out and everything? Like, what's the difference between 10 years ago and now?
It's unrecognizable, to be honest. 10 years ago, there was absolutely no shade. I just remember cooking out in the sun. It was about 40 degrees every single day. And yeah, now it's changed. Like, I couldn't even tell you if it was the same festival, to be honest.
There you go. And what sort of, like, artists we watching at that time? Was there anyone that stood out to you back in 2015?
It's really funny because the first time I came to VTV 10 years ago, we had Skepta on the lineup. And this was before Shutdown really blew up. So we had Skepta on the lineup at about 2, 3 p.m, random ass stage. And he was just shelling it out in a full blacked out tracksuit, 40-degree day. And this was before he had the fame or anything. So he was just on a random stage playing. It was great.
That's sick. I mean, it's so amazing when you get to see that sort of transition from someone like that. You know, shout out to Untitled for booking someone like that so early on in the piece. And then, I mean, now look at him. Really did shut the world down. But he, yeah, he's a proper G. I'm jealous, actually.
Yeah, we had some other sick artists too. So like, I'll shout out Jamie XX because that was one of the artists that I saw at BTV 10 years ago who he played a whole vinyl set and he dropped a tune that literally changed my life. I'm not even joking. He played this tune called Move Your Body by Mark Ryder and MC Vapor, which is a tune that I still play in some of my sets on vinyl, and it's like a garage tune that really, really got me interested in UKG back in the day.
And then, for those of you that may not have listened to the episode on Club Elevate, episode 36, I sat down with Osmosis Jones and discussed, you know, all of the above, how we got into garage. But I think that's a nice segue into explaining to everyone, you know, how that kind of drew you into making garage and being obsessed with garage. And, like, what was actually, in terms of the sound itself, like, what's actually the main thing that draws you into being obsessed with it and producing and DJing it, do you think?
I think it's pretty multifaceted. So UK garage is one of those genres where there's so much within it that can draw you in. So it's like you've got those really sweet R&B focused tunes, and then you've got those kind of like dirty, more like bass driven tunes, but it's almost like the between of those where the sweet meets the sour and you've got like those R&B influences mixed with like the dirtier bass driven sort of sounds of like grime as well that can really make it really sick. And that tune, like Move Your Body, Mark Ryder, MC Vapor, was one of those tunes where it's like you've got the really dirty, like square wave bass driven tune, And it just captivates you because you're like, I've never heard anything like this before. At that point, I've never heard like an English MC on a song before because I'd only ever heard like American people rapping. But back then, I heard like an English MC on a tune where the sound was like, it was super rude. It's like really bass driven. It was really like evil almost. You've got that like square wave bass just like infiltrating your brain. And yeah, it was just awesome. Like I'd never heard anything like it before in my life. So that's what was like, that had captured my attention. I was like, wow, like I've never heard like an English MC, but I've also never heard a tune where you've got this bass just taking the lead like that as well.
I guess like from there, you know, we discussed you starting out producing, but when you're actually producing a track, you know, you haven't come from like a music theoretical background. You don't have that classical training like a lot of our, you know, usual producers do. How do you go about assembling a track? Like you talk about this square bass and, you know, the things that draw you to garage. Where do you start with your, like, when you're sitting down in front of Ableton, are you going, I'm starting with the bass line, I'm starting with the drums, I'm starting with like a vocal that I like and want to chop up? Where do you sit with it?
I always start with the drums because I think, to be honest, like the casual listener wouldn't be concentrating on the drums so much, but if you're a producer, you notice the drums straight away, and if the drums are grooving properly, if they're really tight. But I feel as if the drums are carrying the groove really nicely, that is like the fundamental thing like you want to start with. And then everything around it kind of builds on the drum groove that you've got. For me personally, like I concentrate on drums like so much. Like if the drums aren't good, like I'm not downloading your promos, like I don't think my song is good. If the drums aren't hitting properly, like that's like the main thing.
Okay, yeah, so if anyone's sending him promos, make sure the drums are good. Noted.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I guess like your kind of trajectory, I mean, it really took a big turn with Hock Tour Gate with Interplanetary Criminal. That for you, I mean, we spoke about it on episode 36 about the impact that had for you, but you know, just for those people out there who are, you know, you spoke about in that episode you grinding for so long and you were just so relieved that someone had finally kind of like exposed you to the world in that way. What's something that you can kind of, you know, maybe there's someone out there in the audience that's trying to do the similar thing to you, you know, what's some piece of advice you could give them in terms of like their productions and, you know, keeping at it?
Yeah, so I'd say maybe rephrasing the question of like, how do you separate yourself from other producers?
Yeah. Great work. You should be me, I should be you.
So yeah, when I was discovered by Interplanetary Criminal, I did feel like it was one of those things where it's a long time coming, but it's overdue. I suppose it's, first of all, having the passion for the sound that you're creating. You have to have a deep knowledge of whatever you're interested in, obviously. But also trying really hard to nail like the small technical aspects of what you're trying to achieve. And I think I really wanted my drums to, I guess, emulate the sound of what like old school garage drums sounded like, but also, I don't know, have the weight that new school production has in the club. Like I just want it to hit, like, in honesty. Yeah, I just want it to sound really good and translate well on like a new club sound system.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about making a tune, right? Are you thinking about, okay, well, I think this would fit really well at, say, like daytime at Beyond the Valley, or like, you know, are you envisioning like late night club in the UK? You know, are you kind of like, piece of advice that you might give to someone, maybe would it be around like, okay, well, where do I want this tune to sit? I'm not just making a tune for the sake of making a tune. I want to have like a bit of like direction in where I want people listening to it or hearing it.
I'll be honest, like when I'm making a tune, I would want it to hit in any context. Like even if it is like a day party, if it's in the club, if it's at a festival, like I just want it to be able to hit in any respect. But I want to take those elements of what made like UK garage really sick back in the day. That's the samples, the vocals, the vibe, anything like that. And I want to make it, like I want to revive it for like the modern time.
I feel you've been, part of like a big, you have actually revived a lot of like the garage culture, particularly here locally in Melbourne, but Australia wide. Why do you think that garage is having its moment now? I mean, there's a few other people in the crowd, part of the Inside Crew gang who are here. They're part of it too. But why is it having its moment?
It was one of those things where when I was really getting into garage during COVID and before COVID, etc., it was one of those genres where it always had like the recipe to be really, really popular. Like it had those catchy vocals, it had like big drops, it had bass lines that were infectious, etc. And to be honest, when it wasn't really popular and I was kind of getting into the sound, I always wondered like, why is this not more popular? It's got like everything that people want. Like it's got those like things that you can hook onto, especially with the vocals. Like people really hook onto vocals. It had all those things, and I thought to myself, like, it's only a matter of time before people really like hook onto this.
Yeah, and I think that like that's a testament to yourself as well, because I feel that it's so easy to just go with the trends and like what you think that people would want to hear, or like in terms of genre. Like I don't produce, but I DJ. But like I found myself, 4 or 5 years ago, everyone was playing all that faster stuff that I kind of resonated with some of it, but I found myself playing gigs and I'd kind of walk away being like, I'm kind of playing the stuff that like people want to hear rather than like what I want to actually play. And so that's like huge respect to you for just like sticking at it and being like, I'm captivated by this through, a festival experience through Jamie XX and going, all right, I want to be really good at this, and, applied yourself to your craft. And then, you've been able to actually be part of like you've pioneered it, I would say, particularly in Melbourne, and especially when you're doing a lot of that stuff on your social media, like showing people all these old important records, and I think that like lends a lot of weight. So it's like big respect to you. I admire that. It's very easy to fall into the trap of going with trends. So and now UK garage is trending. So yeah, Osmosis Jones stocks are on the way up.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I feel like it's really important to always give a little throwback to whoever originated the sound that you're trying to be part of.
Yeah, and I think so. And I think that's a really important concept of understanding where sounds originate from. I mean, garage itself, started out didn't start out in the UK. It started in the US in Paradise Garage, the club in New York City, and that's where like the vocals and the soulfulness came from. And then it wasn't until it transitioned into the UK where it's like, the Caribbean culture really focused on sound systems, and there was that whole sound system culture, and that kind of gave it that, extra oomph, that bass that you're talking about there. And that's kind of where that genre kind of, evolved in a way. And then, yeah, not to mention, the hip hop and R&B vocals that are associated with it, and the vocal chops that you're able to do in there. Yeah, it's amazing how you see a sound, like when you look back and see a sound and how it got to where it got to, essentially. But how important do you think it is for people in the modern day making tunes to know where it's come from? Do you think it's a pivotal thing?
Oh, I think it's so important. Like, I receive a lot of demo tunes in my email inbox, and I can tell straight away people who really understand like the origins of a sound versus they're just trying to be part of a trend that exists now. And whenever I will download a tune to maybe play in my sets, it's because there is some sort of emphasis on understanding where the sound actually originated from, versus people who are just like, hey, I really like Silver Bumper or Soul Mass Transit System or Interplanetary Criminal. Here's this song that I made that I think sounds really cool and current. But it sort of is missing like this element of soul that I think it really exists in the genre, which is really integral, because I think UK garage, like, it comes from R&B and soul and like deep house and everything, and if you understand the genre, you understand that like it's really intertwined in these aspects of like soul and house music. And if you are making this kind of like soulless music, like, I can hear that straight away.
So if there's anyone out there like going, okay, well, where do I start? Like, who's some producers or artists that have been really pivotal? Like, where do they look? Who am I looking at?
You just start at the beginning. Like, for me personally, my whole adventure in garage started actually here at BTV 10 years ago when I saw Jamie XX. He played a whole vinyl set, which is so unusual for any act now. And he played this song called Move Your Body by Mark Ryder and MC Vapor. And it's not a super soulful tune, but like it takes that like garage MC thing and puts it over like a really, really strong, solid beat. And it introduced me to that kind of like garage sound where you've got the MC, etc., and it really takes that like old school sound. And you hear it. And other than that, like, I was listening to a lot of like Mike Milrain. He has a bunch of compilations called Deep Step, where he was making that kind of like deep sound of garage, like R&B mixed with two-step, a lot of like old acapellas from back in the day, which were like the R&B sound, and turning them into two-step, and they were really sweet, and yeah, they're just sick tunes.
I did go and check out Mike Moraine after we last spoke, and yeah, he's really steps into like the world of deep house, and yeah, definitely go check out his tunes if you haven't already. And if you're trying to buy them off Discogs, you'll have to load up because they're
have a bit of money if you want to buy them off Discogs, because they're expensive.
A lot of people, I mean, garage, you see it particularly on social media and everything, like there's that kind of build up, drop, everyone's hands in the air sort of stuff. I know you've been pretty vocal about, you know, trying to show people something new when you're DJing, and like, you know, being really patient and intentional with the way that you structure a set, and like, you know, that's kind of the art of DJing. And like, how do you kind of sit with that in terms of, you know, people coming to watch Osmosis Jones and they want to hear an Osmosis Jones banger that's, you know, really popular, you know, a year ago? How do you find that balance of like tailoring to that, but also trying to show people something new?
Yeah, so I think garage got mixed up a lot with speed garage, and without trying to get too deep with it, like, they're completely different beasts. Like, speed garage originally in the 90s was this big like mix of house and jungle where you'd have these big bass lines. And I think in like the new school sphere, you have these big garage tunes which focus on the bass, and they have this big moment into the drop. But like, if you listen to like old school 4/4 UK garage, the groove doesn't really stop. Like, there isn't those big build-ups. And now I think that's honestly what makes UK garage and speed garage so infectious, is you have those big moments where you build into the drop. But originally that's not really where it was, and it's kind of that like rip groove effect. Like, I don't know if you guys all know that tune, Rip Groove. Massive speed garage tune from '97, kind of shifted the entire game. But before that, like, speed garage and garage was all very like well paced. There weren't that many big build-ups and drops. But now it kind of feels like garage is synonymous with those big giant moments and build-ups and drops. And I'll be honest, like today, our inside crew set, we're going to have a few big drops. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but originally it wasn't always like that.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, you got to earn them, you know? Like, otherwise, like, what's the risk in always playing tunes that are, you know, in quotation marks, moments, do you think?
I think, and I feel this all the time, it's like I have all these like incredible tunes on my USB from producers who are unknown and producers who are known or whatever, and they have all these great tunes, but there's too many like build-ups in them, and it kind of kills the energy. Like I wish I had more tunes that just rolled and rolled, so I could make those tunes that have a build-up a bit more of their own thing. But it feels like now producers, and I mean I fall into this trap sometimes as well, like you want to make a tune that really like makes its mark. But I wish there was more tunes that just focus more on the groove, and yeah, just creating a better tempo throughout the sets, because it feels like I'm always stopping and starting and stopping and starting. And to be honest, I feel like the crowd really wants to just cruise a bit more in their sets. Like even though those songs where they have a big build up are really sick, I feel like people would want a bit more of a break.
Totally. I mean, yeah, otherwise I feel it just exhausts the crowd, right? If you're coming out just playing bangers straight up, it's like, where do you go from here? Like, how do you get to the end of your set and, you know, make it like, you know, always people talk about like, oh, I want to create my set into a journey. Like, okay, well, if you're starting out playing banger after banger, it's like, where do you go? Go backwards? I don't know about you, but I don't want to go backwards in like the way that the set flows. So it's like, you know, I understand. And it's hard because there are heaps of huge epic garage tunes that like, you know, have a big suspenseful build up and, you know, they're a banger, but I feel you got to earn them as a DJ and as a crowd too. So like, yeah, patience is crucial. And I mean, nothing better than like hearing Osmosis Jones or Prize Fight play like a sick tune that you've never heard before and being like, get back to the campsite and be like, oh my God, like that was sick. Does anyone remember he played that? And then later on after the festival, you find the ID, you send it into the group chat. Like I feel that element of like digging and understanding and finding those IDs is like it's a dopamine hit, but it's also important in the aspect of the dance music scene as a whole, because the beauty lies in those ones that people don't know but then are able to discover, I think.
Yeah, it's so fun to just see a set where you don't know any of the tunes, but you're like hanging to find out what they are later, and you've got the Shazam out, you've got your voice notes out, you're just trying to find out whatever those tunes are. Like that to me is the most satisfying thing about seeing someone's set, because you're going to hear some stuff that no one has heard before, to be honest. Like that's dub culture.
I want to talk to you about Inside Crew. So Inside Crew playing today, 3 p.m. Yeah, shout out. Any Inside Crew members in the house? We got one here in the front row. Prize Fight, one of 4. So who's in Inside Crew?
So Inside Crew is myself, Prize Fight, Isguan, and Wax Off from Adelaide. To be honest, like the whole thing started out as just not a joke, but we were all just hanging out one day making tunes, and we ended up making 2 songs together in one session. And I posted a couple of clips of the songs that we made with us all tags on the story, and it drove a few people mad. Like we had labels reaching out straight away, being like, "Hey, we want to sign both these tunes," and we weren't really expecting like the hype on it. But yeah, we ended up signing an EP literally straight after we made the songs together to EC2A, which came out earlier this year. But to be honest, like the whole concept of Inside Crew was not like a joke, but it was, we never wanted to make it like a thing, especially that happens at BTV where we all play together. But we're here now and we're super appreciative, but I suppose the whole time we've just been laughing and enjoying the journey, because we're like, oh, all these music industry people think this is like the most marketable thing ever, where we've got 4 guys who just enjoy making the same or similar kind of tunes like on the set together.
Yeah.
And that's where it's at now.
And it must be so fun being up there. You know, playing a back-to-back is always great, but like, you know, you got 4 of you up there. Just, I don't know if you guys plan it or like, you know, it's kind of that element of surprise of like, okay, I'm going to play this tune, see if the guys like it, sort of thing. Do you have a vision of where you're going to end up, or like what you're going to play, or are you guys just kind of just go for it and see what happens?
So for today's set, which is at 3:00 at the Dance Dome,
Be
for
there.
anyone who's here,
Be there.
it's been planned out where we want to make it 100% productions from the crew, which is just everyone who is in Inside Crew. We're going to play all the songs that we've made together, make it this bit of a moment where it's like, hey, Australian UK garage is here. We've got all these guys who are making tunes, and we just kind of want to showcase that. But as for the entire Inside Crew concept, like that's for other people to decide. Like, we're just 4 guys who are really good friends, having lots of fun. And whatever sets we get from here, we get from here. So I think the beauty of it is we're literally just having fun, and whatever happens, happens. And I think that's honestly the sickest part of it, because we're not trying too hard to be anything. We're not trying to like prove ourselves in any respect. Like, we have our own careers going on like outside of this. But when we come together, like, we're all already like really good friends. So it's just it's good fun.
And it seems like you have a heap of fun. Like, I'm jealous that you guys are able to get in the studio and just jam out and do whatever. And I think that kind of lends weight, you know, for anyone out there that's producing music. It's like there's so much beauty that comes with meeting up with someone, hanging out with them, learning some stuff from them, but also, you know, you never know where you'll kind of end up in terms of like what sort of tunes you'll make, you know? Like, all you guys have a lot of different influences within. Yes, you are garage focused as a crew, but like, you know, there's a lot of different influences along the way from all 4 of you that, you know, kind of can create this like kind of new sort of unique sound in a way. And I think that lends weight to the EP, and that's why people wanted to sign it so quickly. It's like, whoa, okay, like these guys all individually are really good producers, but then now they've, you know, created a cyclone and put out this, we're going to sign that. So, I mean, it's cool and it's fun. Like, that's the main thing. It seems like you guys just want to have fun. So I'm keen to see you guys up in the booth at 3 p.m. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, I think people just want to see artists have fun. And I think the whole entire dance music scene, there's like this serious undertone that gets put onto it, and you're like, all right, you got to execute, you got to make all these really good songs, like you've got to be the best, do the best, whatever. But like, I think at the end of the day, people just want to see the DJs have fun. They want to have fun themselves. So like, if we can go out there and just play our best tunes that we know do really well, like, people are going to resonate with that.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I want to get to the listener questions, because if we put a post out a couple of days ago where we pitched to those who know Osmosis Jones and maybe those who are associated with Club Elevate to ask you a few questions. So had a few, but we had to kind of like, you know, pick our ones that we like the best. And so we're starting out with the first one. This comes in from Bailey Cole, and this really stuck out to me as a great question. If you were to make an EP with someone who doesn't make similar stuff to yourself, who would you choose?
Yeah, this was a question I actually saw before. A bit of a crazy question, and I feel like I'm going to give a bit of a crazy answer to this because, to be honest, like I've snuck into the realm of most of the guys I want to produce with, so I might give a bit of a crazy answer. But one of the people I would collab with outside of what I do is, and I mean, this would never work, but I'm a really big fan of Earl Sweatshirt, and I feel like a lot of people in the crowd can resonate with that as well, because like, he's one of those guys, like we grew up with him. Like, I was 15, 16 listening to Earl's first projects. And even though now what he makes would just not work on dance music, because it's like so alt rap and so mumbly and so alternative, but I feel like purely from the way of artistry and storytelling, like, I think he, to me, has continued to be interesting no matter what. But just for vibes, like Young Thug or Gucci Mane on Garage would be so fucking tough. Like, do we not agree?
Yeah, we agree.
I imagine Thugger on a Garage beat, like that would go absolutely crazy.
We'll see if we can make that happen. I mean, we've got connections.
Yeah.
We'll make some calls. That's quality. We'll go to our second listener question. This comes in from Rogan Music. Shout out. Your first DJ set, where was it and what was it like?
I'm not sure if this was my first DJ set, but it's the first DJ set that I count as my first DJ set because it was my first set in a club that would be considered a club. It was New Guernica, the new Guernica, not even before it changed venues. But I was opening for a DJ called Juicy Selector.
Oh yeah, nice.
And this is my first time ever playing at a club. And to be honest, it might be one of the first ever times that anyone's ever played Speed Garage in Melbourne. Back in maybe like 2021, 2022. I can't remember exactly what year it was. But played a bunch of tunes. Went really well, honestly. Super fun set.
Were you playing before or after?
Playing just before him, yeah. Because he plays a bit more like...
pretty bass heavy.
Pretty
like
bass heavy, like 160 kind of stuff. So I was maybe one of the more natural progressions before him. But I remember that being very, very fun. Like I had never played to a club crowd before. And I think the funny part of that set was the first tune I played, I forgot to turn the volume up on the volume fader for like the first 10 seconds. So when I got on, it was just silence for 10 seconds. I thought I was killing it, but...
I've been there for sure. I've been there.
Yeah,
I had the high pass filter on once, playing on a zone for the first time.
I still do that shit, to be honest. Yeah.
And I was like, I played my intro track. It was when XE54 reopened after COVID, and I was sitting there playing closing after Cassettes for Kids. Thanks, Scott. You were actually in the booth with me. Yeah. And I played this like what I thought was like a sick intro. Kick came in. I was like, they turn it down in here.
Yeah, you've got it in your headphones, but like you realise no one else is hearing it.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, what the hell? And then I saw Cassettes for Kids. Zach look over. He's like, hey man, you got the high pass filter on. I was like, shit. Very embarrassing and humbling moment. But it happens. It happens. Third listener question comes in from the lovely DJ Bell. You get to hop in the studio with any producer, living or deceased. Who are you choosing and why?
I would hop in with Timbaland because my musical journey, essentially, of like appreciating beats and stuff came from Timbaland. Like I was 9, 10, 11 years old. Just like cranking my radio up, listening to all the hits of the time, and like Timbaland was obviously on every single tune back then. Like he was making all the hits, so I wanna tap into that. Like, and I think as well, like with garage being so infused with R&B and pop and stuff, I think it's really important to understand like the producers who built up those vocalists that we all sort of use for the garage vocals as well.
Isn't Timbaland on that AI grind? He's like running. Am I wrong in saying that? He's like on that.
He's
AI.
Yeah, he's trying to push things forward. I don't know.
Yeah. What happens if you get in the studio with him and he's like, "Yo, so I'm all on this AI stuff." Where would you sit with that?
For me personally, I think AI and music is redundant. I think a lot of music comes from like your personal history, like your personal experience with music and soul and stuff. So I think without that, like, music's kind of redundant.
Nice answer. Yeah. Put you on the spot with that one too. I want to quickly jump to, music has really become your career. For those of you that haven't listened to episode 36, you were starting out in a career in what field? You were in...
I was a high school substitute teacher.
Yeah. Any students in the crowd by any chance? Mr. Jones?
Statistically speaking, there's probably at least one kid that I used to teach at BTV right now. So that's what I'm worried about.
Mr. Jones. Yeah. So in the house, the label was born through. Was it wet day timetables or was it just class in?
No, it was just like the job. Like I was working at Northgate High School and they had nothing to do for me except like observe children all day. So I just took my laptop in and decided that the vibe would be I'm going to create a record label. And I just was like working at school while I was meant to be observing kids, but like they're fine doing like their thing. They're just playing games and stuff. It was like this mutual agreement that like if I let you guys play games, you guys let me start my record label and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, they used to cheer when you walked in, didn't they?
No, that was primary school. Oh, they were not excited to see me in high school. Primary school, like, the kids love you regardless. High school, they just fucking hate you because you're an adult.
Yeah, true. They just want to get out of there. That's quality. How has your relationship with music changed? Has it changed at all since it becoming, more your career?
Yeah, good question. I feel like sometimes listening and making music feels like a bit more of a chore. I still love it so much, but sometimes I need to take a break from like listening and making music because I'm like, this is just what I do all day. Like I need to chill the fuck out a little bit.
What do you do to like break it up?
Just listen to podcasts. Like any kind of noise is fine to me.
Club Elevate?
Club Elevate constantly.
Yeah, I thought so. It's like sleep timer, 15 minutes, go to bed with my voice in your ears.
Yeah, exactly right. Ricky Nord soothes me to sleep most nights.
Yeah, that's good stuff. But yeah, so glad to be able to sit down with you here at Beyond the Valley in a live format, man. It's been very special, and thank you to all of you guys for coming out to listen to OJ spit some bars and support the podcast. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, Tim, for jumping on.
Of course, Ricky. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, mate.